back. We're chatting to Carl van der Berg, financial consultant at Alexander Forbes, and Sisa Ntshona, head of enterprise development at Absa Bank, talking about small businesses and getting into them. Now, during the break, we were just chatting about the importance of them. Let's go back, because we started this right at the beginning, and we said we were going to get more positive now. The importance of small business in South Africa.
Oh, vitally important. I think when we look at our economy as it stands right now, and we look at our big corporates who are focused on new technologies to employ to reduce the need for labor, which are coming under a lot of cost pressure, and we say, well, what hope is there for South Africa's unemployment rate? Where else can we look but to look at our small business sector and go, well, this really is the hope of job creation. And I would say it's perhaps the only known way where we can create jobs on the scale that we would need. And for that reason, they are so critically important. The success and the ongoing success of businesses that work, that can attract new labor and provide economic growth.
Okay, having said that though, how easy is it to start your small business?
Yeah, you know, I always get asked the question is, what is government's role when it comes to small business? And I see them as the referee, basically. So their job is to create a conducive environment that allows small businesses to prosper. Right? If you look at it, right from registering with CyPro to going to SARS for tax clearance, etc., etc.
Okay, already I'm starting to go.
Absolutely, you know, compensation commissioner for labor and all of those things. It could take you up to a month, right? And if you look at countries like Malaysia, within 3 hours you can get up and running, basically. So I think it's an area that definitely needs a lot of work around in terms of creating that environment. Just to take on to Carl's what he talked about, the importance of small business, right? A couple of, was it 2 years ago, we had a target of creating 5 million jobs by 2015, 2016 or something like that. I'm of the view that we need to create 1 million enterprises that in turn create 5 jobs per company, etc., etc. Because the reality is that no one creates jobs. Jobs become the output, basically, of businesses that are up and running. If you look at the world's top 4 largest economies, basically the US, China, in fact, China does not have a big brand like Microsoft or Google, etc., etc. The biggest brand to come out of China is made in China, right? And that is an effort of how all of these small businesses come together to make a pair of jeans. One does the zip, one does the pocket, and so they mass produce that way. Germany, right, is a conglomerate of family-owned businesses around the motor industry, basically. And so it's about how we inculcate that sense of entrepreneurship in this country right at high school level, right? I mean, I've got an 8-year-old son, and he comes home with schoolwork, homework basically, and they have to, you know, trade, buying and selling. I get excited because I kind of never had that opportunity. But now you're starting to see them. By the time they reach university and finish university, they will choose whether to go work for a company or actually start running their own businesses. It's absolutely crucial.
And I suppose we need to start doing that at that school level as well. I mean, I remember leaving university, having allegedly studied drama and journalism. I spent most of the time at the Victoria Hotel, to be honest. But allegedly, I've studied, but I didn't know how to balance my checkbook at that stage. We were not given those tools. Are we? I know you're not educationists, but are we giving the kids the right tools to start thinking out of the box and not just thinking the old formula, as we said earlier, go to school, go to varsity, get a job? Are we giving them the right tools?
Well, I think let's look at the household, because it all boils down to the household eventually, and you look at the generation above, where job security was paramount. If you're employed, that was critical. Don't lose your job at all. Don't make anybody unhappy, so that just the security was important.
Don't rock the boat.
Don't rock the boat. Your kids need to go to school. You need that income, and you become so dependent. And hear the lesson here: so dependent on the monthly income that to take a risk outside of that, you cannot do it. It's just you can't do that.
But having said that, in the African culture, there is a culture of do your own thing, get ahead, Work with people in your community.
Absolutely.
If you need something done, I'll do this, can you do that? There is that. Why is that not translating into real job creation?
Absolutely. I think it's what you just talk about is the whole concept of bartering, basically how you exchange. I'll give you an example. I grew up in the rural Eastern Cape, right?
Whereabouts?
In Alice. It's a beautiful town there.
Yes,
Not too far from Grahamstown.
Not too far from my hometown.
But anyway, what we understood there is there was never money around, right? But no one actually went hungry. It was all subsistence farming. You got crops and you can exchange them for milk and blah, 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 and everything else. And there was this kind of a communal kind of space like that. I think sometimes what I've seen is the whole moving away from the rural side to the urban side and what we attribute value to, right? Working in a fancy corporate, et cetera, et cetera. The reality is the world is changing fundamentally, right? There's no such thing as job security anymore, right? And in fact, that the pension that you've been working towards all your life is simply not enough to actually take care of you for the rest of your life, basically. That said, though, you must understand that businesses is not for everyone, right? You've got to know your stuff. And by definition, profit is the reward for risk. You have to risk something in order to be able to get something back, basically. It's just about now how you look at what it is that you're willing to put up, what you're willing to risk, versus kind of what it is that you're able to get at the end of the day.
Let's start unpacking some advice here.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to start a business. Firstly, I would imagine it needs to be something that I am A, passionate about, and B, love, because I'm going to have to work at this 12, 18 hours a day, 6 days a week, at least, to make it work.
Yeah.
Is it important, firstly, that it's something you really love, whether it's, I work for Absa, and I now decide I love playing tennis. I'd like to open a tennis coaching academy. And that's going to be my small business. What advice do we start giving people? How do you go about doing it?
Well,
you can't say, why don't you ask Sisa that one?
I'm going to, but I'm going to add my contribution first, but I'm no expert when it comes to exactly what steps need to be followed in order to get an enterprise up and running. But I can say that when you're passionate, you spoke about tennis, if tennis is your passion and you're good at it, then that would be something that you'd have to consider. How sellable is this? What am I selling? And because a business is essentially rands and cents, and there's bills that need to be paid. So how can I turn this into something that is going to turn a profit? And I think we all have this ideal that we get to do whatever we love, and if we do it passionately enough,
it'll make money.
It'll make money. And there are examples of that, and we look to those examples and we say, well, so-and-so has done that, and let's look at this person. They're doing what they love and making millions, and it becomes this dream. Chances are they love something that is highly sellable and specific, and they know how to market that in such a way as to make a proper business work. It might be slightly glamorous, and I know we said we're going to be positive here, so I don't want to be negative. But I don't think that a business is for everyone, because I don't know if everyone finds themselves in that category where what they love and what they're willing to spend 18 hours a day on 6 days a week is something that's going to be better for them than the regular 8 to 5.
How important is it to find the right partners that you involve yourselves with? Because I think of people, and when we look at success stories, you think of somebody like a Richard Branson. Richard Branson is not fundamentally involved in the companies that he runs. What he does is he brings in the right partners to run those businesses.
Absolutely. He understands what he's good at, right? And he also understands what he's not good at, right? He's not a numbers guy who's going to look at the detail and ratios, etc., etc. But however, he surrounds himself with people who are good at that. You made mention of kind of throwing balls up in the air. You like popping up ideas, but someone is to pick them up and run with them, basically. I think that's fundamentally, it's about knowing yourself, right? What drives you, what makes you happy, what makes you get up, and understanding those weaknesses. I mean, I suppose we're all brought up, know your weaknesses so you can work on them. I don't think you need to work on them, just be aware of them and outsource them to people who find passion in such things, legal, detail, etc., etc. You asked about what does a person need to know when they're starting a business. I think the laws of business gravity apply to whoever it is, and that's basic. Your revenues have to be higher than your costs. That's bottom line, basically. So when you're starting out a business, I mean, as Carl had said, it doesn't matter how much passion you have. That helps definitely. But is the product needed? There's got to be a need out there. There's got to be someone that is willing and able to pay a price for your service or your product. Once you've established that, then you can work backwards now in terms of, listen, I've got something over here. I mean, if you're passionate about cook sisters, as an example, basically, and you can make the best cook sisters out there, but there's just a general market that everyone's going lean and mean and everything else, and there's no market for you to buy cook sisters. May have made sense 10 years ago, but going forward, there's a declining market, basically. So you've just got to be aware. It's research, really, basically. And you know what? With all of the good intentions and the plans that you have, they'll never line up 100%. You just need to satisfy yourself that I've got enough to be able to say I'm willing to take a risk and I'll go with it.
As you were talking, I just suddenly remembered a friend of mine, and I'm not going to mention his name at this stage because he still is in media, and he's still a very big name in media. But this particular person has a sideline business of his own, which his wife actually runs on his behalf. And when he went into it, I sat down and had a beer with him, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, no, there's money to be made in it." And what he does is he makes the insert that goes into that toilet roll.
The brown stuff.
The cardboard insert.
Yes, cardboard, yes.
Yeah. And I said, you're doing what? And he said, there's money in it. And that's the reality at the end of the day. You take the ego out of everything and the glamour and all the rest of it. And you look for something that people want. And people need.
Absolutely.
Like you go to a men's bathroom and the first thing you see is your little pee mats in the urinal and you think whoever thought of that idea is a millionaire. Must be something that's needed.
If somebody has an idea, they're sitting watching the show right now and they have an idea, we've got 30 seconds each. What should they do right now?
They should consider how able they are to make that leap into it, and to do that you need a strong foundation. So they should really bring their own situation into perspective, consider where they're at, what risks they face, what risk the failure would be to the family or whoever is with them. And from there they can use that as a launch pad onto what could be a successful venture.
Sisa?
Yeah, I think you have to be absolutely realistic, basically. Understand that the lower barrier to entry in any business, the more noise you're going to get, right? Everyone does catering because it's easy to get in. So understand where you want to play, understand the competitors that you have around you, find your niche. Find that toilet roll thing in the middle, basically, over there, that you're going to sell. Once you have that understanding, understand who your client base is, establish relationships, and I think you've got at least a base to work from.